Good morning.
Good morning.
Kate, ¿cómo estás? Good morning. Good morning,
Excellent.
Robert. Robert,
Morning. Good morning.
good morning. Okay, we're listening to you. Perfect. So we're about to start. Good morning to everyone. This is a very important session about presenting to win, a professional level public speaking webinar. Very different of what we have been doing in the last 3 months. 3 months already, or 4 months, I think, since we started this quarantine. We are very happy to present to you a special counselor that is going to be exposing everything that has to do about these presentations and the tips that we have to know, especially for to win in the United States. Robert, so nice to meet you. Thank you for being with us. And also a special thanks to Eurocenter, which has been member of the AmCham and a very special member, joining us in everything that has to do with mastering English for the professional and business topics. I would like to present then Robert Washington Jr. Moved to Colombia from New York to teach English and promote tourism to Colombia. Robert has an expertise in teaching business English and English language arts, English as a second language, and students with special needs. He is a master English teacher and entrepreneur. Robert graduated from New York University, where he earned a Master of Arts in teaching. Robert, thank you so much. This is the first time we're having this type of event here with the AmCham and Eurocenter with this alliance that we have made. And we expect a very good opportunity for all the participants to learn from you.
Awesome. So are we going to get started now?
Yes, we're ready.
Oh,
we are all yours.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Vicky, for that introduction. I thank Eurocenters and also AmCham for hosting this discussion today on presentation skills. Title of our presentation today is Presenting to Win. If you just give me one moment, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes. In the meantime, I would like to let everyone that if you have a question, please use the chat, the chat, so we can know what you're asking or your inquiries. And as well, Catherine Cardona, Kathy, you are there?
Yes, I am here.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. And she will be willing to help if anyone has any other inquiry. Robert, I'm gonna stop my video so you can share the screen, okay?
Okay.
Okay, we're all yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Share screen. Okay, there we go.
All right, just give me 1 second. A few buttons I have to push. All right, here we are. Once again, our discussion theme today is presenting to win. How to captivate, connect, and communicate with your audience. Once again, my name is Robert Washington, an English teacher. I was born in Philadelphia, came to Colombia in 2019, and I just recently celebrated my 1-year anniversary here in Colombia on July 13th, which is very exciting. Our schedule for today. First, we're going to start off with just getting to understand the importance of audience analysis. Why is it important for your presentation? Then we'll move into how to captivate, connect, and ultimately communicate with your target audience, followed by getting that message across and using the art of telling your story. A concept that's been promoted by Jerry Weissman, who wrote a book called The Art of Telling Your Story, or Presenting to Win. lastly, we're going to finish off with discussing how do you know if you've captivated, connected, and communicated effectively with your audience. So we'll start off with a quote. The success of your presentation will be judged not by knowledge, the knowledge you send, but by what listeners receive. So with that said, it's not about what the presentation that you put together or how intelligent you are. It is about what information your listeners want to hear and what are willing to receive. So by the end of this webinar, attendees will be able to use an opening gamut to captivate their audience, WIFI, and we'll explain that in a little bit more later, and there should be one more I there, WIFI to connect with your audience, and stories to get and how to use stories to get your message across. And once again, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. I'll stop routinely throughout our discussion to answer one or two or maybe more if there's a time is available for that. But we'll also have some time at the end of our session for questions, and I will answer as many as possible. So once again, our goal today, what's in it for you? By the end of this seminar, attendees will be able to use an opening gamut. What is an opening gamut? That is what you want to do at the very beginning. Basically, it's your big bang in the beginning that gets everyone's attention and gains their interest in what it is that you have to say. Then you want to design your presentation using WIFI, W-I-I-F-Y, which is what's in it for you. We'll talk about that a little bit more, and that's basically what is the listener looking to hear from you. And use storytelling to communicate your message. So let's dive right in. As we dive in, you want to start with the end in mind. So just like if you were planning a vacation, you plan for getting to that destination. If you currently live in Barranquilla and you plan to vacation in Bogota, you start with the end in mind, your destination, which is Bogota. So you want to get from point A to point B. What is point B, you ask? The message that you want to get across and or the action that you want your audience to take. Recognizing your audience is what distinguishes a great presenter from an ordinary one. In preparation for today's presentation or discussion, I had to think about who was going to be on the call, and I also had to inquire about that. So in a discussion earlier this week, I inquired, who are the attendees for this webinar? Are they business leaders? Are they in medicine? Are they students? Who are they? How many are there going to be? We'll go a little bit deeper into how do you assess your audience in just a moment. So identifying your audience. This is one of the most important part of your designing of your presentation, because you want to be relevant and you want it to be effective, an effective presentation. So identifying your audience helps you to determine what content and messages people care about, to determine and or customize your presentation style. So let's say, for instance, presentation style today. Perhaps if I was working with children, very small children today, in my presentation style, I might use a lot of cartoon, very colorful animations. Those visuals will appeal to that audience. But in this particular presentation, we see, because the audience that I have in front of me have a mindset for business, finance, commerce, we have imagery that is reflective of that type of persona of people that we have in front of us. So style has a great impact, as I just said, on the effectiveness of conveying a message to your audience and to get your subject into the heart of the audience. So if you want to get to the heart of people, you actually have to create an environment where they feel comfortable and willing to listen to what it is that you have to say. How do you analyze the audience? You've identified, and those are the important things. You must have an audience-centered presentation. Here are some questions that you want to ask yourself. Who will be present during the presentation? What is their position in the organization? What is their educational background or their job? What is their level of knowledge about the topic you will deliver? And what is their learning style? What do they like to hear? And what don't they like to hear? You definitely don't want to say something in your presentation that will offend or that will turn the person off from listening to whatever else that it is that you would like to share with them during your presentation. So think about how your message will be received by your listeners when designing your presentation. And what is their purpose in listening to your presentation? Are they listening so that they can get information, so they can share it with other people? Are they listening to get information so that they can create something or so that they can better sell products or services? What is their purpose for listening to your presentation? And why do they need to listen to you? What is it about you and what it is that you have to offer to them? Why should they listen to you? And so that is the what's in it for you. It was a term that was used like, what is in it for me? So basically a person would say to you, okay, what is it? Why should I listen to you? So you want to ask the question of yourself, what's in it for you, the listener? So in designing your presentation, you want to find out why the person would want to listen to you and what will they benefit from listening. This will help you to better target your audience. Now we can segment, just like in marketing, we can possibly segment our audience into 4 different attitude types. In particular, when you're dealing with business and government and organization and institutional presentations, we can categorize them. There are 4. You have the no nonsense. You have the details. And then you have the big picture people who want to just know, what is this all about? What is the big reason why we're having this discussion today? And where will this information take us? Where do we want to go? What's the vision? Then you have the low maintenance people. Those people have few requirements. And let's zoom in so you can see a little bit closer, a little bit more details about these different audience types. So for our no nonsense, these are usually our higher up executives. They generally don't beat around the bush, meaning they're direct. They want you to get to the point, and they want you to respect their time, use their time effectively. They're very busy people. They have lots of things to do, correct? And I'm sure many of you out there listening perhaps can relate to being a no-nonsense type of person, perhaps. Your time is very valuable, and you have many things to do in each of your days. How do you meet their needs? The content should strongly support data and show results. So numbers, figures, charts, not overkill, not too much, but again, getting to the point and give them the information that's most important and most pertinent to their needs. Stay neutral and just stick to the facts. Your opinions really don't matter here. They just want to know the facts. Next, who are our people? Our details. These people are patient, maybe even laid back, but they prefer more personal presentations that promote building relationships. These possibly would be sales executives, people who are in the business of relationship development in order to promote the ideas, products, and services of an organization or an institution. They're pretty low pressured, and Non-judgmental. They like little or no change, maybe or maybe not. Dedicated and reliable. No need for antics, meaning you don't have to be dramatic for this group of people per se. You do need to be of interest, and again, you want to keep their interest in what it is that you have to say. And then how do we meet these needs? Content that is strongly supports data again and shows results are really good for this group of people. Also, stay neutral here. You don't want to give jokes, you're too much of your opinions. They want to know the facts, the details as well. Our big picture people, usually enthusiastic, love to participate. So give them the big picture. What is this all about? Prefer to see ultimately the big picture once again. And the content you can strongly support with data, that's great here. But again, they're not that interested in the details, but show them more about the results. Where are we trying to go with this data? Again, you still want to stay a little bit neutral because again, you are presenting your ideas and not necessarily yourself. Our low maintenance. They want to know every detail of what you're presenting. They have all the patience in the world to go through every piece of data, study each analysis, and weigh the pros and the cons. So a slow-paced presentation would be good for this group, heavily loaded with charts and graphs and supports the evidence. They want to see it all. They want to learn about everything. So then we have the logic appeal to this group. So you can logically appeal to them. So this is how you want to get started. This is your foundation. Starting with the end in mind, identifying your audience, analyzing that audience, and then coming up with a targeted message that is specific to that audience, which is audience-centered. For recognizing your audience, this is what distinguishes a great presenter from an ordinary one. I'll stop right here for a second and check to see if there are any questions and answer what I can answer for you. All right, so no questions. We'll continue.
No questions.
Awesome.
That means it's going to be very clear.
So what is our roadmap in constructing a presentation that's personally tailored for the audience in front of you? People with charisma possess an outward focus instead of an inward one. They pay attention to other people and they desire to add value to them. So people in your audience want to know, how are you going to be adding value to my life? What is it that you have to say to me that's going to improve my life, make me a better person, get me more sales, more customers, or even maybe in a personal setting, find a mate, find a home? What do I need to listen to you for? What's in it for you? So again, we want to get from point A to point B. First, you need to captivate your audience, then connect with your audience, then you're able to effectively communicate with the audience in front of you. How do we do that? How do we captivate the audience? There are many ways to captivate an audience, but here is some common ways in which audience are captivated by speakers and presenters from around the world. First and foremost, use an opening gamut. An opening gamut is either a question, a factoid, some type of fact, a specific fact about the subject matter that is about to be discussed. Again, this fact should be of interest to the listeners, to your audience. Then some retro perspective or something. Quotes, analogies, and the list goes on. There are other opening gamuts, but these are a few of the most commonly used opening gamuts by presenters from around the world. Again, your objective is to get from point A to point B. But if you cannot get them at point A to arrive at the destination to listen, then there is no getting to point B. So your opening gamut is very important, as first impressions cannot be redone. After you've captivated your audience, now it's time to connect with them. You've captivated with them. Now let's strengthen that relationship and connect. How do we connect with our audience? You can do this by simply asking yourself at least these 3 simple questions. What does your audience want? And in this instance, my audience in front of me, what do they want? They want to become better presenters. They want to be able to connect with diverse audiences. They want to be able to get their message across in different ways to people with different perspectives, people with different objectives. They want to be able to communicate more effectively across boundaries. How does the subject of your presentation offer it to them? And how can you make the benefits to your audience crystal clear? And then when asking yourself those questions, then you can begin to design, create a layout for how you're going to present the information that you must communicate to your audience effectively in a way in which your audience will receive and understand and be of interest to them. After all of that's done, now you're ready to craft and personalize your message. You have the structure, you have your hook, you have your opening gamut, how are you going to pull them in, how are you going to get their interest. Now you can personalize your message and bring it home. So what is it that you want to do? You want to get into the mind of your audience. Get into their mind. Speak to them as if you were them. Speak to their needs and wants. So, in understanding the needs and wants of your audience, you will more effectively be able to do what? Get into their minds. A very effective way to become immersive, very deep in people's minds is to tell them a story. Tell them a story, something that would be of interest to them, using either some type of jargon or idioms that would connect with your listener, that they may be familiar with or they may be able to relate to. Relating to your audience through storytelling would help them to absorb and remember what it is that you're telling them. Use the art of storytelling. So for a review of what we just discussed there, key to being more effective at captivating and conducting audience-centered presentations and discussions, you must analyze your audience. Analyze them. But before analyzing, we should have one more bullet there, and that should be the identify. You first have to identify who are they, then analyze them, step inside their minds, understand their world from their perspective, not your perspective, because once again, you want the audience to listen to you. They're not there for you to listen to what it is that they have to say. You have to already know what it is that they want to hear so that you can communicate most effectively to them. And that's based on their needs and wants. And through finding their needs and wants, you will effectively have a common ground, and you will be fully positioned to be able to utilize your best skills to captivate the audience, to connect your message to your audience, and also to communicate a message that is personal and that is of interest and added value for your audience. So what's next? Based upon what we've just heard there, I'm going to ask everyone who's on the call today to share in the chat. We didn't have a lot of questions. Perhaps we might have some questions now that we can have a discussion about what was just presented here so that we can dig deeper and have a more immersive understanding of how to effectively create audience-centered presentations and facilitate them effectively. So let's take 1 minute, share one takeaway from what you just heard, not webinar, but webinar, or pose a question inside of the chat. Let's take 1 minute and do that. Go. So we're posting one takeaway, one thing that stood out to you, something that you either learned or was reminded of. One takeaway. Or pose a question. What questions did this presentation raise for you? Thank you, Valerie. Yes. Understand the type of audience you're addressing. Very important. Very important. Is there something, Valerie, from understanding the type of audience you're addressing that stood out to you? What about the profiles? Do you agree with those 4 type of attitudes? Yeah, thank you for that question, Jorge. What if you have, no, that was Ricardo, I'm sorry, it moved up. What if you have a mixed audience? So if you have a mixed audience, then it's almost like having a dinner where you're going to have different types of people there. Some people might be lactose intolerant, so you want to make sure you have foods that do not include milk. But for those who are not who can drink milk, maybe you're going to have some desserts and things there that include milk as well. So you want to make sure that your menu has offerings for the diverse people who will be in your audience. Yes, correct. Their attitudes, their cultural background, you want to get to know them. What's relevant for them? What are buzzwords and things that would catch on with them? Yes. Their body language. Now the thing is when it comes to body language, that is something that we only can know once we're conducting the presentation, or if we're able to look at presentations that the attendees have attended in the past. That actually is an option. That's something I didn't really think about. Thanks for sharing that. So perhaps maybe you can even just watch videos of conferences or events that have been conducted by the same organization for a similar audience and see how they react, their body language, their response to the presenter in front of them. Thank you so much for sharing that, Valerie. And Catherine, takeaway, knowing the audience needs and trying to stick to the subject matter and the message that we want to get across. So knowing the needs and wants, those are the 2 most crucial things. 2 most crucial. Even if you don't necessarily know the position of a person, understanding and knowing the needs and wants of why this person will be even attending the event, participating in your event, will help you better position your message and target your communication more effectively. Let's see. Yes, exactly, Jorge. You just echoed pretty much what it is that I think I just said. Important to understand why the audience is there waiting for your presentation, and be sure at the end they get what the audience was looking for. Sure. Any questions that outside of what we've discussed here today that you have specifically about presentations and effectively communicating with the audience that I may have not covered in the brief presentation? You can post those now and I will answer to the best of my ability. And if I don't have an answer for you, I will definitely follow up with you and provide you with an answer. Yes, the benefits have to be very, very clear. And I would just, I guess, toot my own horn. I attempted to do that, and I'm not sure how effective I was in doing so, but I attempted to do that by, in the beginning, the agenda, outlining the agenda and stating what we should be able to do, or at least understand what should be done by the end of the presentation in order to communicate to our audience. How do I gain confidence in my speech if I'm not a native English speaker? So, one is definitely understanding your audience, what gets them ticking, and then create a script about what it is that you're going to say to them. Rehearse it. Rehearse it. That is the best way to do it, is rehearsal. Practice makes perfect. But keep in mind, English not being your native language, your audience, which should be, and if not, they should be made aware of that in some way. Either you can joke about it or whatever, but also just keep the English or the language simple that you're going to use. And in your presentation, use more bullet forms, less text, less words. In my presentation today, I use more text because I am aware that I am speaking and presenting to people where English is their second language. So I have more text so that as I speak, you can read along to what I say and hopefully get a full understanding of what it is that I'm saying. What are some key components that a presentation must have to be attractive? They definitely need to be visually appealing. So visually appealing would include using colors that will not offend, but will complement your audience, using images, pictures, things that the audience will connect to and relate to. Another thing, you would also want to use images that actually add value to the content that you're presenting to your audience. Thank you so much, Valerie, for sharing that question. Yes, video is a very effective way to enhance your presentation and to also tap into other learning styles. Some people are very visual, where others are very tactile. They like to see text. Those who like to read text, who absorb text, who learn better by seeing words, you want to make sure that those are there. But those who are very visual and absorb through graphic imagery, you want to make sure you have that represented as well. Because even if the two people in front of you are both CEOs, the way in which they learn and absorb information might be different. Thank you again for that, Valerie. And Wilmer, some tips if you see that your audience is not paying attention as you expected. If your audience is not paying attention as expected, then you need to think on your feet and adjust your approach. Perhaps maybe even change the subject, or you can pose a question. There are many different ways, but most importantly, that's when you want to be able to tap in your knowledge, into your knowledge about your audience and their needs and wants. So revisit WIFI. What's in it for you? what is it in it for that person in front of you? So you want to revisit that and go back to making sure that you are following the roadmap to get to the destination. Break the ice at starting. To break the ice at the starting, make an agreement with the audience to understand if you're timing. Topics and emphasis are aligned with their expectations. Formalize your presentation if required. Yes, formalize it if required. That's very important. Putting it all together, scripting out what you're going to say, and being very structured and formal, that's very important. I think that's what you're saying here. You're mighty welcome, Wilmer. Let me scroll back up. Yes, Ricardo, share presentation outcomes, and by the end of the presentation, ask if it was met. And that is definitely something that I'm going to do at the end of this presentation. I'm going to ask you, where's your expectations met? What was it that you were expecting? And by getting that feedback from my audience, maybe I would not be able to change if there were some expectations that weren't met. I may not be able to change that, but I might be able to answer any ongoing questions and or concerns that an audience member might have at the end of the question. And it would give us an opportunity to continue the discussion and perhaps develop a relationship. And then ultimately, for you as a presenter, you would have an opportunity to tweak your approach and to also fine-tune your presentation style and how you deliver the content to your audience. Thank you so much, Ricardo, for sharing that. And if I'm not properly answering or responding to your question, please just go ahead and continue to chat. I'm reading everything there, and I'm trying to keep up with what everyone has asked, said, or added. The benefits have to be clear. That was Ivana. The benefit has to be very, very clear. Yes, once again, Ivana. And Catherine, how do I gain confidence? I answer you, Catherine. Wilmer, yes. All right, so yeah, I think I've gotten everyone. Yes, Sergio, knowing your audience is most important. At the end of the day, know who you're going to be speaking to. In our personal lives, we have to ask that question every day. Am I speaking to my mother? Am I speaking to my father? Am I speaking to my boss? Am I speaking to my children? Am I speaking to a priest? Am I speaking to a doctor? Who am I speaking to? That is the basis and the foundations to initiate communication with an individual or a group of people. If there are no more questions, I'm going to continue now to additional readings that will once again help to add value, and you can continue to dig deeper into some of these topics that I briefly discuss. We can go very deep into these subtopics and do some practicing activities to make sure that we're able to implement these things. But due to the amount of time that we have in front of us, that is not possible. So to share with you some additional readings and resources that I've used in order to be able to present ideas, best practices of what's being used around the world by presenters and public speakers. Presenting to Win, The Art of Storytelling by Jerry Weisman is a #1 top seller book, read by business professionals, teachers, lawyers, anyone who has to speak in front of an audience, anyone who conducts meetings, participates in meetings. They have found this book to be very useful in their development and becoming effective presenters and communications, whether they be public presentations, private conversations, and small groups, or amongst individuals. An article written by Beth Bernhardt and Karen S. Fisher titled Presentations That Keep Your Audience Interested and Awake. Excellent article, some great tips on things that you can use and incorporate in presentations in order to maintain the interest and the appeal of your message with your target audience. Finally, we have here benefits of understanding your audience. Putting that into Google, you're going to come across a number of different articles. Take a look at the different things that are being said about the benefits of knowing your audience. And in that, you will be able to benchmark on how others have used audience analysis and conducting audience-centered, presentations to more effectively deliver their message. So in closing, I want to thank everyone for participating or attending the brief discussion this morning or presentation. And for more information about this presentation, or for more, to go a little bit deeper or continue the discussion, to ask questions post-webinar, and or to inquire about Eurocentric course offerings, please contact Alex Espinosa, the academic coordinator at Eurocentric Colombia. Email address is col, C-O-L -info, I-N-F-O, @eurocentric.com. And at this point, I'm going to turn it back over and open up your mics, and feel free if you want to pose any questions or have any discussion, more discussion about the topic. I'm going to stop my screen share. All right. My pleasure.
Thank you, Robert. That was very useful. Thank you so much.
Robert, thank you so much. For any means, to all of you, just a second, something's happening with my micro. Thank you.
Much. Robert?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. I think that all the questions are going to be there in the chat, so we will send them to you. And as well, just to let you know, to all the participants, that the presentation is recorded. So if anyone wants to go back to any of the slides, you will be available to see them. Well, Robert, thank you so much for this, and we'll keep in touch. We will talk with Sibila and Christian, so we can make another presentation that we need to do. But thank you so much. It's been very useful, and I think these tips are very important for anyone, to all of us over here.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Look forward to doing it again with you all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Eurocenter. Catherine, muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bye
Gracias.
for now.
Bye bye.
Muchas gracias a todos. Que tengan buena tarde.
Listo, muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
La presentación estará grabada para todos. La podemos
Sí, claro,
luego pasar.
claro que sí.
Ajá.
La presentación y las memorias también del evento, claro que sí están disponibles.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Estaban bastante tímidos para hablar inglés.
No, pero vamos a tener una segunda
Vamos a-
parte.
Vamos a
claro
tener la
que sí.
segunda.
Así es, una
Bueno.
segunda parte.
Y después el club conversacional.
Así es, claro que sí.
Muy bien, bueno, gracias. Gracias, Cristian. Adiós.
Con mucho gusto, Vicky. Esperando la segunda parte.
Claro que sí.
Listo, gracias a todos. Ya,
Kate, gracias.
listo, bye.